Hey guys, tonight we step barefoot onto warm sand that never ends. Beneath a sky so wide it makes your thoughts feel small and comforting. You follow a figure, and it's you alone, tracing soft footprints that the wind keeps trying to erase. There's no path, no destination, just a slow rhythm to your steps and the heavy, calming silence of open space. You probably wouldn't make it if you were trying to reach something specific. But you're not, you're just walking. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is there, whether it's 11:07 p.m. in Manila or 3:21 a.m. in a quiet corner of Alberta. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first grain of sand you step on feels familiar. Though you've never been here before, it presses up through the arch of your foot like an old greeting. As if the earth already knows your name but won't say it out loud just yet. There's no road, no caravan behind you, just the slow crunch of each step and the whisper of linen brushing your skin as your loose robe flutters in the heat. You walk because there's nothing else to do. There's no task to finish. No audience to impress, just the breath in your lungs, the sun warm on your back, and that peculiar hum of being somewhere without being anyone in particular. The horizon never comes closer. That's how it is in the desert. It teases you with forward motion while keeping you completely still on the inside. You remember someone once saying that wandering the dunes was like walking through time itself. Everything moves, and nothing changes. Still, you keep going. There's a calm in having no destination. A peace in shedding expectations like heavy coats in the heat. You start to notice things. How the dunes ripple like soft velvet under moonlight. How the sky turns from fire orange to soft lavender without ever needing your approval. Every now and then, you find a rock, or a small bundle of dry brush. You kneel beside one. Just brush. But there's something about seeing it, something that reminds you of the quiet resilience it takes to grow here. Some say people only go to deserts when they're lost. But maybe the desert calls people who are finally ready to stop pretending they're found. You lie down for a moment. The sand beneath you sighs. Your body, tired in a way it never was during those busy, noisy years, feels oddly held by the earth. Like the desert isn't a place that pushes you away, it just waits. A soft breeze curls around your face, lifting a few grains of sand that dance in the air before gently falling back down. It feels like the land is whispering a lullaby, one you don't need to understand. You remember when silence used to scare you. It felt like failure, or loneliness, but now, it stretches out like a welcome mat, spacious, non-judgmental, kind. You imagine a version of yourself who never left the city, who never stopped pretending to know exactly where they were going. That person is still walking somewhere, maybe, still moving fast, but you're slowing down, letting the desert walk you. Instead, the sun begins to dip. It doesn't fall dramatically, it just exhales downward, turning the sky into soft amber. You watch your shadow stretch longer and longer until it disappears. There's something comforting about how small you become out here. Like being humbled without being humiliated. You're not the center of anything. But you're not forgotten, either. A soft rustle interrupts your stillness. You glance up. It's just the wind curling around a cluster of grass blades. Tall and dry and golden. But you swear, for a moment, it sounded like laughter. You chuckle back. It feels good. Later, when night kisses the edge of the dunes, you build a tiny circle of stones, not because you need protection, but because sometimes it's nice to mark where you've been. You sit inside it cross-legged, letting the warmth of the sand linger up through your bones. A question floats to the surface of your thoughts, quiet and unformed. Not a question of what's next, but of what's enough. You let it hang there, unsolved. You don't rush toward clarity. You just rest inside the mystery. Sometimes, The most sacred thing is not the answer, but the permission to wonder. And so, you breathe. The stars begin to appear, quiet companions. You're not ready to name them yet. You just let them be. Tomorrow, you might keep walking, or not. Tonight, this is enough. You wake before the sun crests the dunes. The air is still, cool like fabric left in the shade. There's a moment, a quiet one, where you forget who you were before this. The self that rushed, explained, answered, worried, gone, or maybe just sleeping still. You stand, brushing sand from your legs. The ring of stones you built last night still cradles the space where you rested, as if it wants to keep you. But you start walking again, not out of urgency, but out of rhythm. The desert calls for movement the same way music asks for a sway. That's when you see it. A shimmer, way out past where the dunes fold into the sky. It flickers, quivers, dances. A mirage. You know it's a mirage. But something about the way it lingers feels different. As if it's not trying to fool you, but to meet you halfway. You smile and keep walking toward it. The heat grows, not cruelly, but insistently, wrapping around your shoulders like a warm shawl. Your breath deepens. You stop trying to judge the distance between you and the shimmer. Distance doesn't really mean anything out here, not when the ground itself moves in waves. Not when the light is more honest than your thoughts. Each step you take seems to ask, what are you hoping to find? You answer in silence. Maybe it's not about finding. Maybe it's about noticing. As you move closer, the mirage doesn't vanish like it usually would. Instead, it holds. You blink. There's something standing there. A cluster of palm trees. Too precise. Too still. You hesitate. You've been tricked before, haven't you? Promised water only to taste dust. But this, it doesn't promise. It simply exists. And that's different. Your feet slow. The sand here feels cooler. Like it remembers rain from long ago. And then, somehow, impossibly, you're there. It's real. A tiny oasis. Barely big enough for one dream. Much less two. A few trees bow their heads slightly toward one another. A shallow pool, more a puddle really, holds water that shimmers with sky. You sit at its edge. Not drinking yet, just listening. It's quiet here, not the vast, echoing silence of the dunes, but a close, intimate stillness, like when someone you love is near and doesn't need to speak. The water reflects your face. It doesn't flatter or distort. It simply shows. You look into it and realize you haven't seen your own eyes properly in days. Maybe longer. There's something in them that feels less like a question and more like a surrender. Some say mirages are tricks. Illusions caused by thirst and heat. But maybe, just maybe, some of them are gifts. Glimpses of what we're capable of seeing only when we stop demanding proof. You cup water in your hands and drink. It's lukewarm, slightly sweet, incredibly real. You rest beneath a tree, feeling the rough texture of its bark through your back. You wonder how something can grow here, so alone, so exposed. But then, is it really alone? The trees lean toward each other. Their roots must meet beneath the sand, unseen and intimate, sharing what little they gather, trading quiet strength like secret messages. You close your eyes. A thought drifts across your mind like a silk scarf caught in wind. What if the things we chase aren't running from us? What if they're waiting? Not everything that glitters is false. Sometimes, it's just quiet truth, reflected in a way we aren't used to. You lie still, letting the leaves overhead filter the light onto your skin. Dappled, soft, light memory. And for a moment, you feel what it might be like to be part of something, not owned by it. Not controlled, but simply belonging. This oasis, though small, gives enough shade, enough water, enough space to sit and be. You realize that maybe what you've been looking for wasn't home or meaning, but enoughness. It's so subtle, so simple, you almost miss it. Eventually, as the sun rises higher, the pool begins to shimmer again, not with illusion, but invitation. It reflects not just your face, but your direction. You see footprints, not yours, trailing away from the opposite edge. Someone else has been here. The thought doesn't scare you. It comforts you. You're not the only one who's paused in this place of quiet. Others have rested here, drunk here, maybe laughed here, quietly, at the beauty of being so small. The mirage, it seems, was not a trick. It was a memory of someone else's hope, left behind for you to find. You smile, eyes half-lidded, letting the breeze rustle your sleeves. You could stay, but eventually, you'll leave. That's the way of nomads, not because they're lost, but because they trust the earth to whisper again. Still, this moment, this stillness, it goes with you. Like the first note of a lullaby you haven't finished humming. You stand, brushing sand from your clothes, and walk slowly around the pool, trailing your fingers along the water's edge. The reflection trembles and reforms, like truth itself, gentle, forgiving, and never quite final. You leave without looking back, but the shade still cools your back a little longer, as if part of it walks with you. The dunes welcome you back like an old friend who doesn't ask where you've been. They shift slightly underfoot, soft and yielding, as though they'd waited all this time with no expectation, only presence. You walk differently now, slower, maybe, not because you're tired, but because something inside you has started to listen. Not to sound, but to space. It's a peculiar sensation, isn't it? The way silence isn't always empty. Sometimes it's full of questions that don't need answers. The wind returns by mid-morning, no longer cool but still gentle. It curls around you in bursts, never pushing too hard, like a friend with soft curiosity. Not words. It doesn't ask anything, and yet somehow you feel its inquiry. What are you really carrying? You smile at the question. You'd packed lightly, just a woven bag with a bit of dried fruit, some cloth, a water skin. But there are other weights, aren't there? The ones you don't pack, but wear. Memories, guilt, the quiet pressure to keep moving, the belief that rest is earned, not inherent. The wind doesn't judge, it simply swirls around your ears, slipping under your scarf like it wants to brush your thoughts clean. You let it. A quiet insight settles on your shoulders, like dust. Not everything you carry is yours to keep. You reach into your memory and hold one, just one, of the stories you've repeated to yourself over the years. The one that says you're behind, that you're late to your own life. You imagine placing it down, right there on the sand. No drama, no fireworks, just release. The wind picks up for a moment, enough to scatter the image, and then it's gone. There's a strange freedom in not knowing exactly where you're headed. Your steps become less about destination and more about companionship with the earth beneath. The desert doesn't hurry. It teaches you how to walk without rushing. Up ahead, a dune curves in a crescent shape, embracing a hollow where the sand looks smoother than the rest. You descend into it like falling into a thought. You pause. Here, the wind seems to echo a little. The shape of the land catches it and wraps it back around you. Like a whispered reflection, you sit again, cross-legged, palms up, and close your eyes. The sun warms your skin, not with urgency but with a kind of affectionate persistence. You breathe, in, out. The wind asks another question, softer this time. What would happen if you stopped proving and started being? Some say people need direction to find peace. But maybe peace is what you discover when you stop needing direction. A small insect skitters across the sand near your hand, leaving a tiny trail behind it. You watch it for a while. It's busy, but not frantic, focused, but not burdened. You envy its simplicity for a moment, then realize you're not so different now. As the breeze curls around your neck, you feel it again, not loneliness, but aloneness. There's a difference. Loneliness aches. Aloneness holds. You lean back onto your elbows, eyes half open, watching the sky ripple with the faintest clouds. A passing thought catches your attention. What if the wind is the desert's way of touching everything without ever needing to stay? You let that thought stretch out and breathe beside you. There's no need to solve it. Eventually, your stomach reminds you of time. You nibble on the dried fruit from your pack. The sweetness an unexpected gift. You eat slowly, as if you might offend the quiet with hurried chewing. Then, another feeling. Not hunger or thirst, but longing. Not for a thing, but a moment, a memory, someone, maybe. A gentle ache of wanting to sit beside another and say nothing. Just share the sky. You wonder if that's possible. If two silences could coexist without one needing to fill the other. The wind pauses. You almost hear it nod. You stand again, brushing the back of your legs clean. And continue walking, not with purpose, just with trust. The landscape doesn't change dramatically, but somehow, it feels different. Like it's noticing you, too. Like each step you take is less about distance and more about arriving in pieces of yourself. The sun lowers. You reach the crest of a dune and pause again. Silhouetted against a sky that's beginning to blush. The breeze returns once more. This time slipping around your ankles like a ribbon. You close your eyes and turn your face into it. It feels like the wind is asking you to listen again. Not to it, but to yourself. The part of you that doesn't speak in sentences. You nod, and for a moment, you and the wind agree on something that doesn't need to be said. And so, you walk on, a little lighter, a little more whole. The sun disappears behind you without asking for attention. Like a friend who leaves the room quietly so you can rest. And just ahead, nestled in the cradle of a low dune, is a soft orange glow, steady, not flickering. A fire. It doesn't crackle or dance like fires you've known. It almost hums, if stillness could hum. You slow your steps, drawn to the gentle promise it carries. The way it doesn't command notice, only welcomes it. As you approach, you see someone seated beside the glow. A figure wrapped in linen. Their face mostly in shadow. Body language loose, unguarded. They don't look up. Not because they don't notice you, but because they do. You pause at the edge of the warmth. They nod once, an invitation without ceremony. You settle down a few feet away, letting your legs fold easily beneath you. No need for introductions. The fire, you now see, is not a fire at all. No flame, just a ring of smooth stones. Warm to the touch, radiating heat from the day. Clever, kind, efficient. You both sit in that glow, without speaking, and nothing is missing. This is what companionship can be. You realize, not always the passing of words, but the quiet sharing of presence. Like two moons orbiting the same stillness. The other nomad pours a small stream of water into a shallow dish and slides it toward you. You nod and take a slow sip. It's cool, carrying a faint mineral tang. Real water. You nod again in thanks. Still no words. You begin to understand that silence doesn't mean emptiness, it can be generosity. 2. The sky overhead darkens into a navy wash. And stars begin to appear, not hurried, not showy, just there. You glance at your companion. Their face catches a bit of starlight now, weathered, calm, ageless. You wonder what brought them here. Or if, perhaps, they've never left. Some say the desert is a place of exile. But maybe, just maybe, it's a sanctuary for those who no longer need to be heard to feel seen. A small sound, a breath, released, then the faint brush of their sleeve as they adjust their position. Still no speech, and somehow, you feel fuller than after most conversations in your old life. You let your eyes rest on the dunes beyond the ring of stones. They look softer at night, like sleeping giants wrapped in velvet. You think back to the weight you left in the sand earlier. That old belief of being behind. It feels distant now, like a coat you shed 3 seasons ago. There's comfort in this stillness. The kind that doesn't ask you to perform, explain, or entertain, you start to wonder how many other moments in life you rushed through. Afraid of this kind of quiet, the nomad pulls a small pouch from their side and opens it slowly. Inside are fragments of dried fruit, dates maybe, and something like pistachios. They place a few on a flat stone between you. A peace offering, or maybe just a shared snack. Either way, it feels sacred. You take one. Sweet, earthy. You chew slowly. The flavor is richer when your mind isn't busy planning what to say next. Eventually, your companion looks up, not at you, but toward the sky, and raises one hand in a slow gesture. Not pointing, just noticing. You follow their gaze. A single shooting star slips across the horizon. So brief it barely counts as a wish. Still, you whisper one inside your chest. Not for something new, but for this to remain, this feeling. You glance back and catch the nomad's eye for a breath of a moment. There's something exchange. Not a story, not a secret, just a nod of shared understanding. This, too, is enough. Then they lie down on their side, cloak pulled close, and close their eyes. You do the same. The stones hold warmth through the night, cradling you both in a ring of borrowed sun. The wind slips over the dune, soft like a lullaby, and the fire without sparks keeps glowing. Not from flame, but from the memory of day. As you drift, you wonder, what if the people we're meant to meet don't always arrive with answers, but with space? Sleep takes you before you can finish the thought, and the silence stretches between you both, gentle, healing, whole. Dawn doesn't break in the desert, it arrives softly, brushing its light against the dunes like a mother pulling back a blanket. The sky moves from indigo to rose without announcement. You wake slowly, eyelids heavy with peace instead of dreams. The warmth of the stones beneath you has faded, but it lingers in your joints, in the rhythm of your breath. Your companion is gone. There's no sign of footsteps, just the quiet assurance that they were never meant to stay. Some people pass through our lives like wind, felt, not held. You sit up and stretch, arms wide, letting the morning air wrap around you. There's no regret, just a strange fullness. You pack your things without hurry. The pouch of fruit remains where they left it, more than you remembered. You take it with a soft smile, whispering a thank you that the dunes carry away. As you begin walking again, you notice something peculiar. The sand seems to rise and fall more gently now. The wind no longer tugs, it escorts, and the ground beneath your feet feels familiar. It's subtle at first, just a memory in your souls. But the longer you walk, the more it settles in. This path remembers you. Not in a mystical way. Not in a way that suggests you've been here before in another life. No, simply in the way Earth remembers the shape of kindness. A soft life lesson settles in the lining of your thoughts. Sometimes, the land doesn't need your story. It just needs your presence. You pause near a small rise where the sand has formed a perfect arc. You trail your hand along the ridge. It responds, not by changing, but by staying, as if to say, you belong here, too. You sit for a while, not because you're tired, but because you're curious. And as you watch the grains slip through your fingers, you feel it. The desert knows your name, not the name others gave you. Not the one on forms or introductions. The one you forgot when life became noise. You hear it, not as sound, but sensation, like the hush of recognition in a crowded room. The wind lifts slightly, brushing your cheek, and you swear it calls you, beloved. You smile, not because you understand, but because you don't need to. You rise and walk again. This time not toward anything, but with something. A quietness inside that feels anchored, like a tree buried beneath the sand, roots deep and still. And then, just past a high dune, something flickers in the corner of your eye. A scrap of cloth tied to a thorny bush, deep red, weathered, flapping in the breeze. You walk to it, fingers brushing the fabric. There's no message, Just presence. Someone left it here, maybe as a marker, maybe as a whisper. I was here. 2. It feels like communion. You add something of your own, a thin bracelet from your wrist. Knotted at the center. You loop it around the branch beside the cloth. No explanation needed. The bush stands a little straighter. Or maybe it's just your imagination. The day wears on gently. The sun is higher now, casting shadows that stretch like reaching arms. You walk alongside them, your own shadow weaving in and out of their embrace. You find yourself humming, not a song you know, just a soft tune that feels like breath with rhythm. It surprises you. You haven't heard your own voice in days. And yet, it doesn't feel like noise. It feels like a thread being tied back to something true. A question forms in your heart, not urgent, not sharp, just a wondering. What if your silence isn't emptiness, but ripeness? Not everything that is full makes sound. Think of the moon, think of seeds, think of the gaze shared across firelight. You keep walking until the sun begins to bend again. The dunes turn golden, shadows deepening into navy, and somewhere in your chest, something unlocks. Not a secret, not a memory, just a deep sigh that says, you're allowed to arrive. You sit once more, this time on a slope, where the sand leans against itself like a shoulder. You lean too. The stars appear again, slow and steady, no rush. You nod to them, familiar now, companions. A small breeze flutters by, tugging gently at your robe. You laugh, just once, soft and quiet. It feels good to be known by a place, not as a visitor, but as something it no longer tries to push away. And as the night deepens, you whisper to the sand beneath you, to the stars above you, to the wind that walks beside you. I remember now, and the desert answers, not with words, but with stillness. The kind that feels like home. The stars blink like ancient thoughts, old and unbothered, freckling the night sky in clusters too familiar to name. You lie back in the sand, arms stretched out, letting the sky press down gently until it feels like a soft quilt pulled over your spirit. Above you, the stars neither dazzle nor compete. They simply are. No shimmering finale, no grand entrance. You think, some lights don't need to impress to be meaningful. You've seen brighter skies in cities, ones lit by 1,000 electric promises. But none of them ever made you feel this quietly held. The wind has quieted now. Not gone, just listening. You turn your head and look to the horizon. A faint purple glow gathers. Slow and patient, morning is coming, but it's in no hurry. You smile at that. Not everything needs to rush. You, least of all. As dawn approaches, you begin walking again. Not because you're seeking, but because movement, now, feels like breathing. You've become part of this rhythm. Step. Pause. Breathe. The dunes stretch out like thoughts smoothed over time. You walk without aim. And still, you seem to arrive, again and again, at just where you need to be. At midday, you find a patch of stone, a slab of earth where the sand has worn thin. You sit atop it, legs folded beneath you. The stone is warm, solid, a place to rest. It feels like a moment for reflection. You don't chase it, it comes on its own. You think of the stars again, how they were content to be seen or not seen. How they shimmered without needing applause. And a thought whispers through your mind, gentle and unrushed. What if your worth doesn't depend on being noticed? You hold the thought like a smooth pebble in your palm. You don't need to believe it all at once. Just long enough to feel how light it is. The heat deepens, shadows vanish. The sun stands overhead like a watchful parent, not stern, just steady. You tuck your scarf tighter around your head, shielding your neck, but you don't hide. This isn't the kind of heat you fight. It's the kind that teaches. You let it slow you. Let it soften your limbs. You learn to walk like the wind, low, patient, listening. There's no one around, no voices, not even birds today. Yet the silence is never silent. You hear your breath, The shuffle of sand beneath your sandals. The brush of fabric as you move. And then, without warning, you feel something strange, a shift in the air, a tug, not physical, but intuitive. You stop walking, listen. Ahead, nestled between two dunes, something moves, not a creature, a form. You squint, a camel, alone. You approach slowly. It doesn't flinch, doesn't run, just watches you with those half-lidded, world-weary eyes. Its saddle is worn but intact. A pouch hangs from one side, frayed but not empty. You reach out, its nose leans into your palm, like it's been waiting, like it already knows you. You laugh, not loud, but real. You check the pouch, dried dates, a half-full water skin, and a scrap of parchment with nothing written on it. You mount the camel. It rises slowly, groaning as if reluctant but committed. You grip the reins gently, not directing, just following its pace. The camel begins to walk. But something's odd. It doesn't move forward, not really. It meanders, doubles back, circles dunes you've passed already. At first, you try to guide it. Then, you let go. Maybe this camel knows something about directions you don't. Some say camels remember every step. But maybe they also remember the places you needed to revisit, especially the ones you forgot mattered. As you ride, memories begin to surface. Not loud, not vivid, just soft brushstrokes in the back of your mind. A time you sat with your grandfather on the porch in silence. A moment in childhood when someone held your hand without needing to explain why. A conversation you never finished because you didn't think silence could say enough. The camel keeps walking in its slow, looping way. You give up control completely. And in doing so, you start to find pieces of yourself scattered along the path. Not mistakes, not regrets, just unclaimed moments. What if wholeness isn't a straight line forward? What if it's a spiral, a sacred circle that brings us back not to where we were, but to who we were? The camel huffs. You pat its neck. I get it, you whisper. The sky begins to cool again. Dusk unfurls like a slow breath, tinting everything in rose gold. You let the camel guide you to a shallow dip between dunes. It kneels. You dismount. You offer it a piece of fruit from your pouch. It accepts, unbothered. You sit beside it, and together, without a map or a reason, you rest. The night arrives softly, folding over you and the camel like a shared blanket. The creature rests beside you, legs tucked, its breathing deep and rhythmic, a slow, steady reminder that even those built for wandering know how to be still. You lean back against its side, feeling its warmth, the occasional ripple of muscle, and the quiet company of something that doesn't need to speak to offer comfort. In this space, with stars reappearing above like slow-thought constellations, you feel no urge to move, no impulse to plan. Stillness is not emptiness here. It's enoughness. As the night deepens, you stare upward. The stars do what they always do. Appear without fanfare. Burn without seeking attention. Disappear without sorrow. You wonder, what if you're not meant to blaze? What if you're meant to glow? No noise, no spectacle, just the steady quiet of someone who has made peace with who they are. Even if no one else sees it, you fall asleep beside the camel, your breathing syncing with its own. In the morning, it's gone. No warning, no sound. Just a set of fresh tracks leading off into the dunes. You smile. There's no sadness in the parting, only gratitude. Some journeys are meant to be shared in silence. And then, released, you begin walking again. The desert opens like a book still being written, and your steps become softer, more deliberate. You no longer try to predict what lies ahead. That urge, once loud, is now a whisper you can listen to without obeying. By midday, the dunes grow taller, sharper, but not hostile, just more sculpted. The wind here sings a little higher, like a flute with a single breath. And there, hidden between two ridges, you see it. A boulder, Alone, dark, and slightly out of place. Its surface rough, sun-baked. A stone in the middle of sand always feels like a question. You approach slowly. There's no sign, no clue, nothing to announce its importance. But you feel it, a presence, a pull. Your fingers trail its edge. It's warm, even hot. You circle around it, finding a narrow crevice near its base, just wide enough to peer inside. And there, within that hollow shadow, is the glint of something wet. You blink, move closer. Water. A slow, steady trickle. Not a spring, not a gush. Just a bead of moisture sliding along a hidden groove in the rock's belly. You crouch down, cupping your hands beneath the narrow stream. It takes time, minutes just to gather a swallow. But when you sip it, the taste is clear, sweet, and impossibly alive. And it hits you, gently but completely. Sometimes nourishment doesn't pour, it drips. You sit beside the stone, feeling its grounded wisdom. It hasn't moved in centuries. Maybe it doesn't chase anything, doesn't stretch or run or explain. It just holds. You lean against it, letting your back rest on its unyielding strength. The heat is forgiving now, and a soft breeze curls past your ear like a breath you didn't know you were holding. A quiet insight. Maybe you don't have to be flowing to be giving. Maybe your stillness is someone else's wellspring. You think of your own life. The moments where you felt you weren't enough because you weren't producing, achieving, broadcasting. But this rock, this ancient, patient stone, gives life by simply being. Not loudly, not constantly, just reliably. You smile. A small lizard scurries across your foot and pauses. You both regard each other for a breath. Then it moves on. Even in this vast emptiness, life pulses, not frantically, but faithfully. You stay until the sun tips westward. Then you stand, placing your palm one last time against the stone's warm side. You don't say goodbye. You just nod. As you walk away, the sky turns the color of old parchment, faded gold, dusted with rose. Your feet leave prints behind, but the wind quickly softens them. Some things are meant to be remembered only by the present moment. You crest a ridge and turn once more to look back at the boulder. From here, it's just a shape, nearly swallowed by distance. But in your chest, it lingers, a quiet monument to something eternal. You keep walking. The land flattens slightly now, and the sand grows finer, cooler. There's a stillness in the air that feels almost sacred. You begin to hum again. This time, the tune feels older, like it's not yours but borrowed from the land itself. And as night begins to descend once more, you wonder, what if home is not where you land, but where you are allowed to pause? You don't answer, you just walk into the question, step by step, until the stars gather again to guide your rest. By now, the desert doesn't feel separate from you, it feels like skin. Not in the way of ownership, but in familiarity. You move as it moves, and it shifts as you shift. There is no trail, no blaze, yet somehow everything feels intentional. Your feet know where to land. The morning light is pale, almost pearlescent, filtering through a thin veil of mist you hadn't expected. The desert wears this softness like a secret it rarely tells. You pause, breath held. It feels sacred. The sand no longer scorches. It embraces, and the air carries the scent of minerals and moisture, as though the land, for just a moment, is remembering rain. You walk more slowly today, not from fatigue, but reverence. Ahead, the land dips, not dramatically, but enough to catch your attention. You descend the slope and find yourself in a shallow basin, ringed by low hills like an amphitheater for the sky. In the center stands a tree, alone, small, twisted with time and sun, but alive. Its branches reach outward in stubborn celebration. Leaves sparse but bright. You approach without a word. Some say trees in the desert are miracles. But maybe they're reminders that roots can drink from silence. and still bloom. You place your hand on its bark. Rough, real, a texture that refuses to apologize for age. And something in you relaxes. You sit beneath it, knees pulled to your chest, arms wrapped loosely, no goal, no lesson, just presence. The tree creaks slightly in the wind, and you lean into that sound like it might have something to tell you. It doesn't, and yet, you understand. Not all wisdom speaks, some just stands and survives. Time stretches here, not in minutes or hours, but in sensations. The feel of warm shade on your shoulder, the soft hush of leaves trembling, the tiny shifts of sand under your heels. You think of the people in your life, the ones who gave you the most peace. It wasn't always their words. Was it? Often, it was their stillness, their willingness to sit with you in the ache without trying to fix it. This tree, in its silence, gives you that same grace. A thought stirs. What if the world isn't asking you to be extraordinary? What if it's asking you to stay true, like this tree, no matter the drought? You feel a lump in your throat. Not sadness, just recognition. The kind that says, I see now. Eventually, you stand, slowly, like someone rising from prayer. Even though you never bowed. You press your palm to the trunk one more time. Not to say goodbye, but thank you. The desert opens again as you leave the basin. The sky stretches wider. Your body feels lighter, not empty, clear. You hum again. The tune now rooted in something deeper. A resonance, not a rhythm. And as the sun climbs, you come across something unexpected. A circle of stones. Not warm like before, but marked. Etched with lines, shapes, symbols you can't decipher. A message from another wanderer. Perhaps, or from the land itself. You kneel, tracing your fingers along one curved pattern, a spiral. And you remember. Spirals always return, but never to the same place. You sit in the center for a while, not thinking, just letting the shape remind your body how to be soft again. The wind swirls briefly, lifting the hem of your robe. A handful of petals, pale and dry, drift across the sand like forgotten blessings. Where did they come from? You don't know, but you catch one in your palm and smile. Not all beauty has to explain itself. You rise again. The sun is beginning to dip, shadows lengthening, painting the dunes with long, tender brush strokes. You walk toward them, not as a seeker now, but as someone simply in step with the world. And it feels like the earth walks with you. Not behind, not ahead, but beside. A breeze presses against your back, subtle but sure. You remember the tree's stubborn grace, the stone's silent offering, the camel's quiet wisdom, the nomad who never spoke. Each part of the journey still echoes, not loudly, but faithfully, like a heartbeat. You wonder, what if healing isn't about going somewhere new, but remembering what was never broken? The sky turns golden one last time, and just before you pause for the night, you find a hill that opens into a sweeping view. Miles of sand, ribboned sky, and somehow, you feel seen. Not by a person, not by anything that has a name, but by the moment itself. You sit, you breathe, you let go, and the desert, wordless and wide, wraps you in a silence that hums with belonging. The night settles around you like an old story you've heard before but forgot how much you loved. You lie atop the hill, arms folded behind your head, eyes fixed on the sky as it spills open with stars. There's no wind now, not even a whisper. The air is utterly still, so quiet you can hear the hush between your own heartbeats. And somehow, that silence is louder than any noise. You listen, not for anything specific, just for the sake of listening. There's something sacred about this kind of stillness. Not the silence of emptiness, but of completeness, like the pause at the end of a song before the applause. Or the space between two people who no longer need to prove anything. You smile gently, feeling how your body has softened in ways you hadn't noticed. Not just your muscles, but your mind, your expectations, your guard. The stars twinkle above in patterns too complex to grasp, yet they comfort you like lullabies. And from somewhere deep within, a thought rises. What if your softness is not a weakness, but a form of wisdom? You let that idea rest on your chest like a warm stone, grounding you. The cool air wraps around you, and you reach into your pouch for the last of the fruit. One bite, sweet, sticky, real. You savor it slowly, honoring the quiet abundance that comes from simplicity. Tomorrow is uncertain, but that no longer frightens you. You remember when every unknown felt like a cliff's edge, but now, uncertainty feels like a sky full of stars, unmapped. Yes, but breathtaking. You chuckle softly, just once, because somehow, the desert has made you laugh more with silence than life ever did with noise. You close your eyes for a moment and let memories drift in, not as sharp images, but as feelings. The soft press of your hand against that ancient stone, the nod of the wordless nomad, the deliberate meandering of the camel, the stubborn strength of the tree. You didn't plan any of it. And yet, here you are. You rise just before dawn, wrapping your robe around yourself like a soft promise. The chill is sharper this morning, and the horizon glows with the first suggestion of day. And then, you see it, far off in the distance, a shimmer. Not a mirage, you know better now. It's smoke, thin, graceful, reaching up in delicate spirals. You walk toward it, not with urgency, but with curiosity. The desert unfolds in front of you like it's holding your hand. As you draw closer, the smoke thickens slightly. It curls from a tiny fire set beside a low tent, barely visible against the sand. You approach slowly. Another traveler sits by the flames, cross-legged, stirring something in a battered tin cup. They look up as you near, offer a quiet nod, and gesture to the empty space beside them. You sit. No words are exchanged at first, just the clinking of metal against tin, the low hiss of heat. Then they pour a bit of tea into a chipped cup and hand it to you. It's hot, fragrant, spiced with something earthy and grounding. You sip. It warms your chest. The traveler speaks eventually, voice quiet, accented by long pauses. You've come far, they say. You don't answer right away, because you're not sure how far you've come, not in miles, but in meaning. So you nod instead. They smile, as if that's the most complete answer possible. You look like someone who's found what they weren't looking for. They add. You exhale a soft laugh. I wasn't looking for anything. Exactly, they reply, as if that explains everything. The fire crackles. The breeze returns, but not to scatter, just to pass by gently, like a memory brushing your cheek. You sip your tea again. Watch the horizon slowly unfold with light. And you wonder, what if the quietest encounters are the ones that change us the most? You don't ask the traveler for their name. They don't ask for yours. And still, you feel known. Eventually, the traveler packs their cup, stands, and nods once more before walking away toward the rising sun. You stay for a moment longer, finishing your tea, then gently stamp out the fire. The smoke rises once again, curling toward the sky like a final breath of gratitude. You begin walking again, but this time, there's no sense of departure, only continuation, as if you've become part of the desert's long, unfolding story. And the desert, in return, walks with you, not ahead, not behind, but beside. The path, if it can still be called that, is nothing but light now. The kind that spills gently across the dunes, softening every edge, dissolving footprints almost as soon as they appear. You walk not toward something, but with something. A presence, a quiet, a rhythm that doesn't demand, only accompanies. And within you, something has shifted. You're no longer measuring distance by what you've passed or what remains. You're moving by feel, like a feather tracing the breath of the earth. Ahead, the landscape opens, not wider, but deeper, The sand gives way to a stretch of flat stone, smoothed by time and wind. It feels ancient, solid, timeless. You step onto it. A breeze lifts around you, more like a sigh than a gust. And suddenly, without any sign, you know. This is the place you've been heading toward. Not because it holds answers, but because it holds stillness. You sit at the center of the stone, legs folded, back tall, not in pride, but in peace. Your pack lies beside you, nearly empty now, and yet, you feel full. The silence here isn't absence. It's acknowledgement, like the desert is holding you in its arms, and whispering nothing because nothing more needs to be said. You close your eyes, and breathe. Each inhale tastes of warmth and distance. Each exhale carries old names and old worries out of your body. Like smoke released into twilight. And a realization lands, gentle as a shadow. You never needed to arrive to be whole. You only needed to stop running from where you already were. The sun begins its descent again. Slowly, deliberately, the sky opens into gold and lavender. You open your eyes. A flock of birds crosses the horizon. Not loud, not hurried, just moving together. In quiet confidence, you follow their arc across the sky, and feel your heart mirror their flight, high, light, unburdened. You think back to that first night, cold, unsure, wrapped in doubt. The image feels distant now, like a former self who needed to walk to the edge of the world just to remember they belonged in it. And you wonder, what if you never really find home on the outside, but remember it on the inside? You press your palm to the stone. It's warm, alive, almost, as if it's been waiting for someone willing to listen without needing explanation. You sit like that for a long time. No plan to leave, no need to stay, just resting, just being. And the desert doesn't ask for more. It just lets you belong. Night has returned, not as a curtain, but as a soft exhale. The sky above you no longer dazzles, it hums. Stars blink lazily, like eyelids mid-dream. You lie back on the stone. Its warmth has faded now, but its memory stays beneath you. The wind whispers around your ankles, not to move you, but to soothe you. The desert is no longer something you crossed. It is something that now lives inside you. And in this final stretch of stillness, every thought slows, every need quiets. You don't have to search anymore. Not for answers, not for direction, not for a version of yourself you thought you had to earn. You are here, and here is enough. Let your breath deepen, like sand settling after a long drift. Let your limbs loosen, like branches that no longer brace against the wind. There's nothing left to prove. There's only this, the gentle hush of the night, the coolness on your skin, the heartbeat you now recognize as your own rhythm, steady, soft, strong. The stars will keep watch. The dunes will hold your secrets. And the wind, faithful as ever, will carry your quiet forward into morning. So rest now, dear traveler. Let yourself be held. The desert has found you. And in that shared silence, you have found yourself.